Hello all, it's 13th of November 2016 and it's Dan here from Essex, United Kingdom. I'm just having a chill out by the fire here. As you can see, lovely Sunday evening, a little bit chilly outside, so I thought I'd put the fire on. Why not, hey? So, just been thinking, and there's a lot going on in the world at the moment, as everybody out there surely knows. And at times like this, people start thinking all sorts of strange things about what they should do, what their priorities are, what other people should do, where they're going in life, excuse me, and this sort of thing. And I think it can be very difficult to people, for people to just think really about what's happening, because there's so much information on one side, so much information on the other, who's good, who's bad, who's got the right intentions, who hasn't, who's true, who's not, who's a nice guy, who's not. You understand where I'm coming from? It's very difficult, and I think at times like this we need to keep perspective of, what we're doing with our own lives, really. For example, they say that what you focus on is what you absorb. So if you're forever watching bad news, bad miserable news, or could be perceived as miserable, will this eventually take your energy away from you, energy in which that you could be spending on other things? For example, if you're spending ages, you've got to forgive me, I've got a bit of a funny throat, so I have to keep clearing it. If you're spending ages perusing the internet, reading newspaper reports on political events all over the world, and it's starting to get to you, do you really need to spend that much time looking at them? I'm not saying that awareness isn't good, because in many ways it can be, but in many ways it's not necessarily always good. But think of what you could be doing with that time. Could you be educating yourself towards the area in which you want to direct yourself? Now, I found this a few years ago, that I started watching the news consistently. The days when I was watching a lot of television. I literally don't watch any television now, very small amounts. I remember watching BBC News 24 or Sky News or something like that, consistently going over and over, watching it to see if anything different had happened in the world. And really I was thinking, is that necessarily what I should have been doing? There's so many other things you could do. Could you spend that time studying a subject that you really like? For example, as everybody who views my channel regularly knows, I'm incredibly passionate about my gardening, so much that it's it forms part of my living, and also forms part of a big hobby of mine as well. So for me, spending time studying gardening is a complete joy, and I really enjoy it. And not everybody wants to study gardening. They could want to study another subject. It could be history, it could be making things out of wood, it could be anything you want it to be. But you've got to try to put your efforts, I've found, into the area in which that you want to go in life. And of course, firstly, you've got to know, where you want to go in life, because it can be very difficult. And the more noise there is out there, whether it is actual noise or busyness, including lots of social media, makes that difficult. For example, once you look into Facebook or something like that, you start seeing what your friends are doing, and you start thinking, oh, you see a comment there, and you click on him, and then you look a little bit about him, and then you see some other comments, and then you see some advertising and that sort of thing. And it's like, well, where does it end? If you end up viewing a news report, you then go lower, and then you see, they've got a little bit of clickbait there. There's a woman there with a lovely body, or something along those lines. Or, what does this celebrity look like 20 years after she was famous? You wouldn't believe it. You click on that, and then you think the amount of hours or minutes of time that you've spent doing that. Now, these people are very clever marketing. They know what they're doing, and marketing can be a very positive thing as well. But you need to be aware of distractions in the world, I've found, and think about what is important. For example, so you're going to go out one day and you're going to get drunk. We've all done it. I've done it many times, trust me. And I think, well, yeah, okay, but really I don't do it anymore. But when I was in my early 20s, I certainly did. And I'm thinking, like, God, that time could have been used so sort of efficiently to do something else so much better. I'm not saying there's no room for a little bit of this behaviour in life. Of course there is. But you've got to get it in perspective. And think, well, go out and get sloshed, okay, spend 50, 60 quid, maybe more nowadays. I don't even know how much a pint of beer down the pub is now. Used to be about £4, I think, when I was in my early 20s, something like that, £3-4, something like that, I don't know. And then you spend the next day feeling awful, so you generally don't go to work either, and you think, yeah, great, really worth it. Done something detrimental to my health, and that time has gone, so, that I could have spent on something far more productive. And I just think, well, what could have been done instead? I'm in a bit of a reflective mood tonight here in front of the lovely wood burner. Look at that. Isn't that looking lovely, eh? So, with regards to education, now, of course, many people now, they like to go to university to get educated, and of course, this is the sort of thing that we could do. But maybe there are other ways that we can educate ourselves now. I mean, there's the library, of course, and there is the internet, and you can, study so much. You can go on the internet and, let's say you want to make a table. You could put how to make a table. You want to learn a bit about cars, how to change brake pads. Put it on. I'm sure some information will come up. A lot of it will be a load of rubbish, but a lot of it will be true. And, there's so many things that we can look at in order to enhance our own life. And I've been thinking about dietary changes, and things like that. So I've spoken to my viewers about this before, that I do like my food, my sweet food and that sort of stuff. But this is some form of, I don't know if it's an addiction or whether it's a habit or whether it's just being a pig or gluttonous or something like that. You think, oh dear, eat one biscuit, have two, have five, have 10, have a whole packet. And I wonder why we're like that. Is it simply because we are addicted to this, or we want the pleasure from it, or what? But we all know this is not good for us in excess, and we're thinking, well, what can we do? For example, could more people spend more time growing their own food and perhaps eating less processed food in order to help break that addiction? Or do people want to? Do they like the way that it's going now with regards to eating excessive amounts of junk food and that sort of thing? Jobs as well. I think so many people, myself included, moan about their job. I mean, I don't moan about my gardening job. I love that. But we won't go into other details. But, no, moan. And we get stuck in things, don't we? We get stuck into what we're doing, and you think, well, I've got a paycheck, I've got a rent or a mortgage to pay, I've got a car loan, I've got a mobile phone bill every month, I've got the water bill to pay, I've got the council tax to pay, and of course, before you know it, you've been doing that job for a long time, and of course, to get out of that job can be difficult because you've got all these bills and you can't see a way out. And then you could have done 20, 25 years. You think, just a few more years, or I'm going to be getting a pension from this anyway. And then you retire from that job that you've done for all them years that you haven't enjoyed. And maybe you had a lot more control over getting out of that job than you thought. So what could you do? So let's say you're working a 40-hour week in a job that you don't like. And it's shift work. Which, of course, shift work makes things even more complicated to do with how you feel, your health, the hours that you're available to actually do things, to attend courses, which of course is where the internet comes in handy, and books, because you can do them at any time. So you've got to start thinking, if you're in a job that you really don't want to do and you want to get out, believe that you can. Because I had a friend of mine, and he had a job that he really didn't like. It was quite a well-paid job. It was some sort of working for some local government or something like that. I don't know the exact details, but he had he had the expenses of life and that sort of thing, and the wife and everything. But he managed to get himself out of it. How did he do it? He pursued his passion, but pursuing his passion required an awful lot of hard work. An example, well, in his case, what he did was he played guitar for 4 to 5 hours every day, got all his qualifications, and then became a guitar teacher, which can be, so other people have told me, obviously I do play guitar, but I'm nowhere near good enough to teach, can be a relatively lucrative profession or trade, whatever you want to call it. So he managed to do it. So I just want people out there to believe in themselves a little bit more. And I know my YouTube channel is predominantly about gardening, you know, vegetable and fruit growing in particular, but I have other interests as well, and one of those is I do like to see people improve themselves, because I myself over the last few years have really changed my direction in life, and it's been hard at times. You know, I've suffered from lack of sleep doing this, I've suffered from overwork, back pain, shoulder pain, overall stress, but now I'm in a certain position, I look back and I think all the work has been worth it. Now in many ways it would have been easier for me to have just stayed as I was, but at the time it would have been easier, of course it would, but now I'm in the position, or moving towards a position of sort of where I want to be. I basically said a few years ago I wanted to earn my living and create my living around the subject of gardening, and although I'm not quite there yet, I am slowly getting there. And the only reasons, or one of the main reasons that I'm getting there, is because I knew what my passion was and I did what was required to put myself in the position. Because at the end of the day, you've got to make money. Because, you know, unless you're an inherited millionaire or something, you've got to make money because you've got bills to pay. You know, there's not really a way around that. Bills, family, etc., etc. If you're in a certain country, I mean, we're still lucky in the UK here that we have a national health service. I mean, hopefully you never have to use it, but you know, some countries you have to pay for your healthcare, so of course you need money for that. So you've got to think about what you're going to do. But I was thinking, if there's certain ways in your life you want to improve yourself, you want to grow a few bits and bobs in your garden, get a pot and grow some carrots. Not this time of year, obviously, but if you're interested in that, search some of my gardening videos. You'll find something on there, or someone else's gardening videos. So anyway, I think you guys get where I'm coming from, whilst I'm having a nice chill out by the fire. If there's any questions or anything, leave them down below. All the best.